I'm so excited that you're here with me today, and we're going to make something beautiful and perfect for music festivals in the summer. And it's going to be a chain ring bracelet. It's very kind of bohemian, maybe a little bit like Indian Bollywood style. It's going to be really cool. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is take out our 16 gauge wire. I'm using gold. As always, you can use whatever color style you want. I'm just going to unwrap it a little bit, and we are going to make a braid like we did for our ring, but we're going to do it for our wrist. So I'm just going to go ahead and just use my own little baby wrist here. Just going to fold it. This is actually going to be the outside edge of our bracelet. So I'm just going to see and play around with it, see how it looks, see how it fits on me before we even get started on it. So this amount of wire is probably good for my wrist. Of course, I'm always going to overuse my wire, make it a little bit longer than it really needs to be, just in case if we make any mistakes. As always, we have a little bit of slack to work with. Take out your cutters. Go ahead and just cut that guy off. Fold your wire in half. Again, not really paying attention to how straight this guy is, but we do want it to get the kinks out just a little bit. And you can just do that with your hands. I'm sure you guys remembered this technique, everyone's favorite. It does take a little bit of time, but I think that the design is well worth it. This time we're using a thicker gauge, so you may notice it's a little bit harder to bend and shape here. And that's okay, you just got to take your time. I'm going to use my big flat nose pliers because this is a bigger piece of wire, stronger, so we're going to need stronger tools to work with. And then we're going to repeat the process of how we made our wire wrapped ring. All right, guys, welcome back. I am done braiding our long bracelet. And as you can see, when I bend it, it's going to fit over my wrist perfectly. Remember to measure it out for your own wrist. And I've also went ahead and made one for my ring. Most chain ring bracelets are from the middle finger to the wrist. So I went ahead and measured my middle finger, which is about a size 7. So I made a smaller ring. We're only going to loop it around 1 time, not 3 like we did with the last one. So we just need it to measure to a size 7 ring for my finger. So I'm just going to measure it out for my size 7. Of course, I made it a little bit longer than I needed to be, just to make sure we had slack, all that good stuff that you champions of wire jewelry making already know. Okay, and that was a little bit more difficult for me to bend because we're working with a thicker gauge. So take your time, don't get discouraged. I'm going to trim off the leftover part into our trash. Well, I'm going to try to trim it off into the trash. Keep our organized workplace in check. And we don't need all this gross wire, so we're just going to get rid of that guy. Next up, I'm going to even add more detail to our lovely braid here by going in with our very thin 26 gauge wire. Again, as always, I'm using a different color so you guys can see what I'm doing. You don't have to. For this technique, I would recommend it though because it's going to be a detail. I don't really know how much wire we're going to use for this, so I just tied it on top here. And then I'm just going to follow the twist right in the middle. All right, guys, once I reach the end here, I just go ahead and just wrapped it up. I'm going to just take my clippers and clip it off. So now we have a bracelet that is going to be very detailed, and you can see the different colors in it. It's just really pretty, and it's going to give it that extra detail that's going to make your chain ring bracelet sing. I love it. And you know, when I was looking at chain ring bracelets to kind of get inspired of what's out there and stuff, they're very plain and they're just not worth the money. So I wanted to show you something that's going to take your chain ring bracelet over the top, and you'll be able to charge a pretty good amount for these. And also people are going to stop you on the street and be like, "Ooh, girl, what is that?" And they'll just want to know all the details for it. And I just think it's going to be just so gorgeous when we finish dottling. So let's go ahead and bend this in half and see what we got going on. Remember, we are working with a thicker wire, so it's not going to be easy to bend at first. You kind of just gotta use your pliers and manipulate this. I'm just going to show you so far what it's going to be like. This is going to be the outer edge of your bracelet. We're actually going to have a really awesome braided detail inside that I'm going to show you how to do today. And this is going to be kind of like our little cap to end our bracelet with. So I think that looks pretty good. Let's set that aside now, and we'll fold that and make that prettier later. And I kind of want my ring to match. Right now, it doesn't. You know what's missing? Some more of this contrast wire. And we're also going to use this to cover up our ugly little ends here of our wire. Just like we did with our other ring, we're going to start right where the two sides connect. We're using our pliers to balance it and brace it close together. So I'm going to use my pliers to get in here even closer with the detail of these edges. I want my edges to almost overlap like we did with our bracelet, kind of making an X, because that's going to just look more seamless. Don't really want people to know where the edge of our wire jewelry is, even though without soldering you can't really get rid of the edges, especially with this braided technique. Ooh, we can sure as hell try. Measuring my ring again just to make sure that it's tight, because I was manipulating the wire for a bit and actually it is a little bit loose, so let's go ahead and tighten that guy up. Still feeling a little bit loose. It's all part of the process here, guys, so don't get frustrated with yourself if you have to do this a couple times. Now just clamping these edges down so it's more curved, it's not so flat on top, just so it looks more cohesive. Now let's take out our thin wire again. This is going to help us protect us from any sharp edges that I may have missed with my clippers. And also it's going to make a cohesive piece with our bracelet, as we've already added the detail to the bracelet. Again, I'm just cutting probably way more wire than I need for this. I always like to have more wire than needed, as you guys know by now. You know, I went into the store the other day and they had so many fun different colors and wire. I think it would be really neat to experiment with even neon colors. I think that would be really fun. So keep that in mind, that there are plenty non-metal colors to work with for these projects. I'm going to use our tiny pliers because we're using it for tiny work, tiny detailed work. And we're just gonna wrap around this wire just like we did with our bracelet. Now, the reason why I want only a little bit peeking through is because my fingers are gonna be super, super close. And we're working with drills. And even though we're gonna go super slow with the drill, if for some reason you accidentally push a little bit harder than you would want to, you may cut yourself.